And welcome to another edition of Comics The Gathering, and today we're going to be doing our review of The Joker.
Fair warning, this review will feature heavy spoilers. We're going to be talking about all the nitty and gritty details, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, I suggest you back out now, go watch the movie, come back, watch the video.
You've been warned. You've been warned. I'm going to tell you right now, there are some movies that I have zero expectations for. Years ago, when I saw The Matrix the first time, I had zero expectations, and I left like crawling because I was just blown away. This time, I had heavy expectations, and they were all met. I want to watch this again.
Yeah, no, the movie was fantastic. There's definitely a lot of conversation that can be had out of this movie, and I'm sure hundreds of other YouTube channels are going to be doing their videos on this. But there is... there's the philosophical aspect. We got to talk about the cultural impact. We have just the comic book impact, and whether or not DC is going to just keep this as a standalone or if they're going to expand on it. So let's jump right into it. Overall, what was your full takeaway?
The best part about it was, instead of it being a superhero, supervillain origin story, it was a character origin story. We finally saw a well-developed character, and out of all of MCU and all of DCU, this was probably the best character development and origin story out of any of these comic book movies. And they really got the heart of the character. The whole point of the Joker was he was part of Victor Hugo's movie, The Man Who Laughs. And I've got to get the name right here. The main character was played by Conrad Veidt, and it was about this, little carnival guy who's just an hysterical laughing tick. And what we see here is the Joker is not just telling corny, crappy jokes and doing a bunch of silly puns. It was a guy who had a mental disorder. Arthur Fleck,
Yes.
main character, who becomes the Joker, as portrayed by Joaquin Phoenix, has a mental disorder. He's been abused throughout his life. He was abused as a child, and this is the scars that are left behind. And it carries with him throughout his life. So we see this guy who's just emotionally disturbed instead of some guy who's just got a grudge against Batman and he's just a common crook.
Or, you have the other one where it's just the anarchist interpretation of Joker.
Right. This was their attempt to go back to the origin of how the Joker character was developed in the first place, based off that movie from 1929 or 1928.
Yeah, and that goes all the way back to when Bill Finger and Bob Kane were writing the original Batman comics. They got the idea for the Joker from The Man Who Laughs. But then what's cool is later on, as retellings occur, the Joker has always kept his origin mysterious, because even the Joker doesn't know his true origin. And he's quoted in saying, I believe it's The Killing Joke, he goes, "If I were to have an origin, I prefer it to be multiple choice." So this is just one interpretation of those events, because if you look at The Man Who Laughs, but then you also look at the Red Hood origin of the Joker, where he is a struggling comedian trying to make ends meet. And that story's a little bit different. In that one, he has a wife, and things go sour with his wife, and there's, medical stuff, and he ends up committing a robbery, and that's how he falls in the Ace Chemicals vat, and he gets knocked in by Batman.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like a play on that, because this time around we see that the riots caused by his actions end up creating the circumstances that lead to Bruce's parents being shot. And thus, inherently, Joker creates Batman in this telling, which I think is this nice little paradox of how we've seen it play out in the comics.
We've seen the version in 89, or some people say it's 1990.
It's 89. Batman 89.
Yeah. And Joker was just a common crook, and he goes over and he goes, "Ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?"
Yeah.
And he says something real hardcore, and he kills him, and you're like, okay, this time we got just a random guy coming up in a clown mask because he's one of the flash mob that's just dressed up like the Joker, and he's just caught up in the moment, and the parents pay for it. Now, the other thing was, there was always a touch of altruism to the Wayne family.
Mm-hmm.
Not in this movie.
No, they
They're dicks.
yeah. Well,
Although
we don't really know because we see everything from from Arthur's perspective, and Arthur is inherently an unreliable narrator.
Right.
Because we know that he thought he had a girlfriend and he didn't. He thought he had, there's this whole thing where
So the whole point was of the psychotic episodes, the delusions that he was going through, and I really want to nail the point on home that method acting pays off when you really get into the role. People have said that the reason that the Joker played by
Heath Ledger.
Heath Ledger's Joker, yeah, that he spoke with Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson said, "Be careful because to get your mind into that role, it's going to really screw your head up." And Heath Ledger died shortly after. That was, some urban legend that's what was said. I don't know if that's true, but Joaquin Phoenix his appearance is vile.
Yeah.
He loses so much weight. The constant zoom-ins of his just rib cage.
It reminds me a lot of Christian Bale's physical appearance in The Machinist.
Mm-hmm.
If you've ever seen that movie, he got down to
The boxing movie. Was that the
no, not the boxing one. In The Machinist, he gets down to 98 pounds.
Oh God.
Yeah, and part of his method acting regimen was he changed his diet, and the majority of his diet was coffee and cigarettes to just get his body down to where it would be. And then what's funny is, if you watch through his method acting, his body type has gone all over the place. Because shortly after The Machinist, he did The Dark Knight.
And now you've got to get jacked.
And then
overnight.
he had to get built. And then he's also done movies like Dick Cheney, where he played Dick Cheney and had to put on a bunch of weight and get fat. And
Right.
So, the body manipulation is insanely impressive, and obviously these guys have access to physicians and they're able to consult.
But there's something about Joaquin Phoenix. He has a very dry delivery. I think back to Gladiator. I think to these movies, he's not a flamboyant character, and he didn't do this overly flamboyant out of the get-go. Even by comparison to Heath Ledger's Joker, there was never one point where he was really going out there and over the top with it. The Joker for him was something he was doing as a means of work. That was the whole point. Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is a guy who's just doing this as a job. He's been in and out of mental institutions in Arkham Asylum. They went back and they did that justice. Mm-hmm. And also Gotham is New York City. We forget that. Gotham is is his own city, but historically New York City's alternate name was Gotham City in real life. So they shot a lot of the scenes you see are in the Bronx.
Mm-hmm.
When they did that Joker, when they did Dark Knight, some of those scenes, like the bridge scenes where they're all trying to escape the city, that was Chicago.
Pittsburgh.
With the bridge? Those little bridges, that's part of Chicago.
It's Pittsburgh. I remember when they shut down the city for filming. It was either The Dark Knight or The Dark Knight Rises was heavily filmed in Pittsburgh, one of the two.
Mm. Yes.
It's my hometown, I better know.
Right, but the little bridges and the little waterway, that's Chicago.
It might be, it might not be. I'm not certain.
We'll let you decide.
Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, yes, please.
Which of us is right?
Yes, but this was New York City. And it was New York City in the late 70s going into the 80s. So it created one thing. Let me just trail off on that one sec. This is the deal with that makes it a little bit interesting. Because of the time period they put it in. Let's say it's 1978, let's say it's 1980. That's about where we were.
Mm-hmm.
Now you see this 8-year-old Bruce Wayne. If you go 20 years in the future, it's 1990. If you go 30 years in the future, it's 2000. You have a 40-year-old Batman against a 60 or 65 or even 70-year-old Joker.
Yeah.
So now you've got this little conundrum. Do we compartmentalize this and just say it was a one-off little DC masterpiece, or Do we just do the Batman movie as a timed piece and do it, Batman's watching Jerry Seinfeld, or well, Joker's watching Seinfeld? I mean, that's the question is, this is a good standalone movie.
Yeah, hands down.
It's a standalone movie, no doubt about it. The only thing is, while watching this one, the Joker felt very organic and real.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot see how you would even add Batman into this, where you would have a guy go from everything else around us is normal, except there's a guy who dressed up in a Joker suit, and there was context behind it.
Yeah.
That's what he was doing as his day gig. Was he just a carnival barker for electronic stores or children's hospitals? Fine. Now to go the next step over and have a guy go full Batman costume out of thin blues, it's hard.
I mean, yes and no, because look at the amount of unrest that's just in this world. It's very parallel to some of the stuff we're seeing now, and they were at a point where the entire city had turned out to almost the entire city turned out to protest the wealthy and the horrible class divide that they have in Gotham City, and the fact that even though I love Batman comics, if the Waynes just started funding all the public stuff and helped out, crime wouldn't nearly be as bad.
But that goes back to what I said earlier. Thomas Wayne is portrayed as kind of a dick here. They really show the divide and really illustrate that this guy's out of touch. Now, you could say that any movie shot is going to have, tones based on the current environment that we live in. So if you want to, make it something political and say that the wealthy or, the 1% of the 1%, and do it like some Bernie Williams style that we're, this lower class and these guys are way out of touch, there were definitely hints of that. Because usually when you hear Thomas Wayne, you always hear him as benevolent and donating money, and not here.
But
that could be from the perspective of
we also hear about Thomas Wayne from the perspective of Bruce
and his mother,
and the perspective of Alfred, and no one who is directly opposed to him. So that's the thing, is there's always two sides to every story, and I think maybe this is the perspective of how Gotham and the people who are at the bottom rungs of society that have been left to slip through the cracks, as the inherent corruption of Gotham runs rampant, and they cut funding and
right. But that was the thing. So you've got a definite change in the archetype of the main characters. The Joker is a departure from the other Jokers because we really don't know what their motivations are. Their motivations are unknown to them. Like you said, he has the one famous line, "I wouldn't even know what to do with you once I got you. I'm like a dog chasing a car."
Yeah.
And I said it out of order, but that was the point, and that's fine. This guy had a motivation. He explains it throughout the movie why he's doing what he's doing. He is a victim. This Joker is a victim from his own eyes. He is a victim, and if we're going from the idea that every scene that we're seeing is his imagination or his perception of it, then he's a victim. If we're not, he's certainly a victim of circumstance.
Yeah.
And that's the other point. The other Jokers were just like, I feel like doing something fucked up for the sake of it. Yes. This Joker is like, how many times are you going to kick me in the head? You can't make my life any worse than it already is. And I liked that. And by the way, I see the ambulance go by. Let's break the fourth wall here. There's one scene that was famous in this movie, in The Dark Knight, where he sticks his head out the police car and he's just smiling, he's enjoying himself. They did that in this movie too. He didn't put his head out the window, but he's just watching the chaos go by, and he's just got a big grin on his face. But I want to get through the theory of it all and get to the physicality of it.
I do want to jump onto one thing while
This is what you got. Okay.
While it's in my head is, so all these people come out in support of the Joker, and I always wondered how, if you look at like Batman the Animated Series or even the Batman '89, how they always got all these henchmen. Oh my God! They finally.
Well, James Bond, like, what is it, like a great 401k to be like Dr. No's henchman or something? Like, Look, Puddin', we've got a 401k and stock options. I go, okay, all right, I'll get my head crowbarred in by Batman. Right. All right. Do we have Affleck? Because, Batman and Robin are in town. I mean, I'm just saying,
they won't kill us, but we're gonna be eating through a straw for the rest of our lives.
Do I have some accidental indemnity insurance here? Like, are you gonna give me a lump sum for my broken arm?
Like, oh god, and can you imagine what Affleck and stuff is like in Batman, like how exuberant it must be?
Oh my god,
If they find out you're a criminal and
Look, Joker, Mr. Fleck, whatever your name is. I just want to know that there is a low deductible insurance policy here. Do we have an HMO, a PPO? I'm very concerned. Look, I'm down for Team Green. All right, I've got no problem with that. You want me to wear makeup? You want me to, jingle bottles? Wrong movie? I'm sorry, Mr. Joker. Sorry. Just want to know if my kid's going to be covered. My kids are in a vat of acid. I have no choice. All right, well. But, yeah, I really... That's 101. It's always a cult of personality thing.
Yeah.
Well, think about it. Cult of personality. What is the last few presidential elections have been a cult of personality?
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with, well, this is what I've actually done, and here's my record. It's, we're going to make you so rich. You're going to have so much money. Oh, God! He's God! Oh, he was on the TV, and he was, I have not, he was so good. Clinton was so good. Oh, God. Hopes and dreams and okay. Oh God, he's one of us. So it's like, okay, but what has he actually done? You're a jerk. I had a conversation with somebody. They were going on about the current president, and I said, it was 6 months in. 6 months in, I said, so what has he done so far? Well, you're a jerk. You're a freaking. Oh my God, there's so much. It's been 6 months. You're a jerk. Click. Okay. That's the point. I'm not getting political. It's the cult of personality. When you were around someone with that type of magnetism, that type of charisma. Every Joker has charisma.
Mm-hmm.
Every hero needs a villain. You cannot have a good story. Now, the villain to me can stand alone. The hero's motivations are justice and or vengeance. Batman is justice mixed with vengeance.
Yeah.
Okay? This guy is a standalone guy, and
the only mortal who's been powerful enough to wield a green and yellow power ring at the same time.
Yeah.
Opposing forces.
Yeah. But the greatest sci-fi movie in my assertion is The Wrath of Khan. If you don't have Ricardo Montalban in that movie, what you're left is Star Trek Into Darkness, and we don't want that. So when you have a character like Khan played with a man with natural charisma like Ricardo Montalban, and you replace it with the dry, bored, plank, driftwood mannerisms of the most boring... What's his name again? That British guy who's just so damn boring. He's Doctor Strange and he's Sherlock Holmes.
Cumberbatch?
Benedict, I can't cumber-act. Boring, son of a bitch whose role is to be Benedict Cumberbatch. I'm Khan, and I'm very good at fighting, and I'm very...
I mean, I haven't seen Wrath of Khan. I can't argue with you there.
The greatest sci-fi movie of all time. And maybe one of the greatest movies of all time. Definitely should be in a top 100, if not a top 25. Let's be real.
However, I will argue in defense of Benedict Cumberbatch here. I've liked him as both a Doctor Strange and as Sherlock.
I don't think the guy is gay, but the only reason why he's flaming is he's so dry, he self-combusts. That's how boring he is. Now, that being said...
I'm not going to let us get off topic, but...
That being said, every Joker with with the inclusion of James Carrey being the Joker when he was trying to do
Riddler,
and he was being the Joker, you had an actor who could put charisma into it. Now, in this sense, he built up to that point.
Yeah.
There was a crescendo because he was an average schmuck just trying to make his way through the shitty ass 70s going into the 80s where, yeah, the economy was crap back then, by the way. So they got the time period right. They just splashed in a little bit of
by the way,
DC.
There was a garbage strike in the 70s in New York.
They got all of that right.
Yeah.
They went historically accurate. They had elements of what was going on in New York City at the time. And once again, New York City is also known as Gotham City. Not because of DC, but because of way earlier. I don't remember the history of it off the top of my head. But to the point of staying on the Joker, the thing that I wanted to talk about was the physicality.
Yeah.
That everyone was bitching and moaning about. Oh my God, kids are going to see this and want to shoot up a room. No. Now, is there going to be some lunatic out there who sees this and I don't know what the messages and the tea leaves will tell them to do, but there is not a tremendous amount of violence in this. This is not one of those, freaking John Wick movies where there's piles of bodies,
Yeah.
This is a cinematic movie. And, oh, you're saying cinematic because you want it to seem fancier. Yeah, it was. It did have the feel of something that was not gratuitous. Everything was planned. Everything was thought out. There was a struggle. The character was not at ease doing what he did on the onset.
And I feel everything was done for a reason. There weren't things put in just to be cool or badass. It was just, that's how the story should progress.
It wasn't 900 guys in turtlenecks with MP5s and glasses, like Ray-Ban glasses just spraying indiscriminately into a crowd. No, it was, I am a dick, I am a piece of crap, you want me to get, and I'm dead.
Yeah.
And that was it. There was a justifiable level of violence within the realm of the character's perspective. I don't want to get off and make it seem like, no.
And I think one of the biggest talking points that a lot of people have brought up with the movie, and I do think we need to touch on, is, this is going to be a movie that future generations of incels look at and take inspiration from, and, I do think we need to be wary of that, because
I can see that. You could definitely get that.
You look at people who want to be like Tyler Durden, or, they idolize the wrong aspect of the movie. Like, the jumping to Fight Club real quick, because it's a really good analogy. Tyler Durden, all these people are like, oh, he was so cool, blah, blah, blah. But the actual writer, Chuck Palahniuk, is a gay man who wrote that character as a criticism of the male ego.
In other words, in incel talk, he was Chad.
Yeah, like, basically, he was, he was this alter ego that existed in the mind of the narrator, who only existed because he was self-conscious of how well he performed in bed. And then what does his unchecked alter ego do? He sets up a terror network all over the United States.
And more importantly, cancel out everyone's credit card debt.
I mean, I'm okay with that half. Let me get some credit card debt first.
Wait, you mean I get to kill the world's debt and beat the crap out of people while doing it, and also imagine that I'm Brad Pitt? Sure. But wait, he was yelling at that nasty chick. I can't remember that actress's name, but she's kind of...
You don't hate on Helena Bonham Carter. I will fight you right here.
Let me tell you something right now. No. I wouldn't fuck her with your dick.
You're wrong. You're very wrong.
She looks like there would be something crawling off her. Because she's in every Johnny Depp movie where there usually something is, and she's about 10 seconds from death. And then the one movie that I can think of where she's not playing some undead bride, she still looks like an undead bride.
What's the movie?
Oh, well, there's Sweeney Todd.
There's Sweeney Todd. I know tons of movies she's in. I'm a huge fan of her work.
And she's in Pirates. Is she not? No. What is it? Oh, what is the? No, there was the one where there's vampires in New England or something, and I think she was in that, if I'm not mistaken, and I can't remember. And Johnny Depp was in that one, was he not? And it had oh God, that hot ass actress, Green.
Watching you struggle, it makes me feel great.
Yeah, I know. And she's, I can't remember because that was the chick from that sequel to 300. Oh my lord.
Anyhow, while you're in pain here, let's rein it back into Joker.
Okay. I hope you're gonna flash the movies there. So for the people in the audience,
No.
like me,
I want them to yell at you in the comments. So
please yell at me. I don't remember, and no, to Elena Bonham Carter. And she was also in the Inception, no? Wasn't she the girl in Inception at the end who... I know. It's annoying me now. I've got to think about that. Who was that lady, the woman in... All right. Cut! Now he's going to leave this in just to torture me.
Oh, of course.
All right. Make fun of me. I deserve it. But still. No.
All right, so let's continue on to Joker. Trying to think, what do you think is the takeaway of the movie? Like, if you were actually trying to watch this movie to learn a lesson about humanity, what is the lesson do you think you should take away?
You know what? There wasn't the random element of chaos in this one. So, you could say there was chaos, but it came from a source. It came from...
It was very much a butterfly effect.
Yes, it came from a place of true terror and fear, not terror and fear imposed, but bestowed on the character. The character was put in this horrible situation with a horrible upbringing, and what you get from it is, if you keep screwing society over and just letting people to their own devices and then punching them in the face, this is what you get. It's like the Eric Andre meme, where he does something, where he shoots, where he shoots the dude, and then he goes, "Oh my God, why did you do that?" It's like, yeah, he shoots Hannibal Buress, and then he goes, "Oh my God, you just killed." That was it. It was like, what did you expect was going to happen? And that was it. And I think the most poignant scene for me is when he's talking to his social worker, and he goes, "You haven't been listening to a thing I've said." And all she cared about was just saying, "I'm here, was court-ordered, appointed to you to, handle you." And all I cared about was just filling out checks on the list. And he was, again, what I like about the Joker character, across all the boards, is he's the smartest guy in the room. He is most in touch with human instincts. Everybody else, even Batman, is just concerned about fulfilling societal norms. And Batman, to me, Batman's like, look, I have to do what I have to do so that everybody else can have a normal life. And what Joker's constantly reminding you, especially here, is what your concept of normal is, what your concept of the system is destroying my life and everyone else's life around me. And I am going to make you eat it. I am going to shove your face in this shit and make you see what kind of world you created for us. When he was addressing this movie, you could argue that it was addressing, the politics of the day, addressing the wealthier 1%, if you want to have that conversation. But he was really, pointedly targeting Thomas Wayne and going, hey, you're calling us clowns? Okay. This is what you're going to get, exactly what you asked for. That's the lesson. If you keep putting people down, you get what you asked for. And do I agree with, two wrongs make a right? Well, Two Wrongs made a fucking great movie.
I think my big takeaway is that you see that this is, a system of circumstance where, horrible thing after horrible thing just befalls the one wrong person, and, fate lines up. And that goes back to something that I've held very near and dear to me since I've heard it from the great Patton Oswalt. Patton Oswalt, in one of his stage shows, talked about the saying of his wife, and his wife's favorite saying was, "It's chaos." Sorry about that. camera died. Back to what we were saying though. It's chaos. You got to be kind to everyone out there, and I think if everyone carries that mentality forward, the world's just a better place. Because, you saw what happened with the one little person that was nice to him. He let him live, and I'm not just saying you should be nice because if you do confront a psycho, he'll let you live. No, you should be nice because it's the right thing to do. It's being a good person, and I think if everyone embraces trying to be nice going forward, then the world becomes less of a shitty place. And I think Rob, you had something you wanted to
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, you reap what you sow. That was the message of the movie. Okay? You sow seeds of dissent, you treat people like crap, they revolt. That had nothing to do with the Joker. He was a symptom, not the cause of everything that happened in Gotham. And that was really what it was all about. And that's what made the movie so great. I will end with this. I don't think this movie lends itself well to a Caped Crusader, because I don't see how organically it would have fit. In the Nolan universe, there was the element of that kind of stuff, and it was a little bit more comic book-ish.
But at the same time, like, more realistic portrayal of comic books?
It was. It wasn't any Tim Burton stuff. It wasn't Joel Schumacher, which is like, neon Tommy guns, it's so good. So good with it. Neon everything. No! It sucks! It really... And Mr. Freeze with Schwarzenegger's patented crap one-liners.
Oh god, it was...
Chill out. Goo! He said something crappy and corny! But, here, it was good. It was good because, hey, this is really hyper-realistic. I could see all of these things happening. It worked.
It met this suspension of disbelief really well. Like,
right.
It seemed like something that definitely could have happened in the 70s. Which, by the way, something that just popped into my head is, so this takes place in the 70s, and based on the age of the characters, the people that are revolting, those would be boomers, right?
You know what though? Boomers are like anything from like 1955-ish all the way on till like the late 70s. I think boomers, I don't know when the exact parameters are, or maybe the late 60s. But yeah, I mean, we always take swipes at boomers. We've got a boomer.
I think it's the end of World War II, so 45 to 60.
No, maybe later than that.
Yeah.
In any case, it's definitely the boomer generation. And yeah, it always comes back to that, right? Like, you want your cake and to fucking eat it too, you fucking boomers. But yeah, the reality of it is, could I then picture a movie set in the same timeline with the same gravity, with blaring trumpets and a guy all dressed in black with the cowl and the cape and all that? Could I take it seriously now? Because The Joker is a one-off movie. I mean, think about it. The Matrix was a one-off movie. It was fine. The EMP device, it's our only defense against the Sentinels. Unless you're a white captain, then you get machine guns. Well, what? Whoa! There are 3 ships that we ever see. 2 of them are captained by black people, and those ships have no guns on board. Whoa! Hello! Just saying. All those White Council members had costume jewelry or something. Like, yo, do they make Morpheus dig for diamonds? Like, dude, I'm just saying. Whoa! Hello!
Yeah.
But could I picture a...
Ignore it.
Could I picture a Caped Crusader? And the answer is not really. I mean, I don't know how you would fit it in. And you're going to say, well, that movie was able to do it hyper-real. But even then, I just don't know. I don't know. Because, again, the time period is off. Because you're going to have to go forward 20-something years. and Joaquin Phoenix looks like he's half dead in this movie.
Yeah.
So then
I mean, and if he's not elderly by then, he's gonna die from smoke inhalation.
Yeah, I mean the whole movie, he's chain smoking nonstop. Like the fact that he's 90 pounds soaking wet, chain smoking, I don't see it. So that's number one. So then you're gonna have to argue, well, you could go into that, and he's impersonating the first one. But here's my problem with that theory: they are surprised. In the Nolan movies, they're like, oh, there's this guy calling himself the Joker.
But the Nolan movies wouldn't be a follow-up to this. They're
I know, it's a different universe. So then you would have to write something new and go, oh, there's this guy. And those two cops in the movie, I don't think either one of them were Gordon. I don't think he...
No. Keep in mind, Gordon transfers in to Gotham.
All right. So that's the point. So we've got seemingly no-name cops. And I'm sure there's going to be one of you out there. I'm more of an MCU than a DCU, but there's seemingly no-name cops. They get their asses kicked, whatever. You've got a guy who could be copycatted 20 or 30 years later, and not have the same motivation or the backstory, and then we can just get another generic I'm a lunatic Joker who has a flair for the dramatics. We could go down that route. And then you've got the Batman, and to me, the Batman is a little bit gaudy with that whole outfit. So, to decide I'm going to dress up like that is a big to-do. Now, in real life, there are real people who dress up in superhero costumes and try to fight crime. There is a guy in Seattle who dressed up in a cowl.
There's a whole team in Seattle. It's the Seattle superhero movement.
They're gone now. But there was a Rain City Superheroes. That's what they were called. And it was led by Phoenix Jones. And Phoenix Jones was an MMA fighter named James Hodder. He was going down the street, and it was either him or his kid got stabbed by a guy with a broken beer bottle. And he's like, look, I'm an MMA fighter. I'm a nerd. I should be able to do something. So he literally got a foam rubber Batman-looking style costume and fought crime until he, unfortunately, maced a woman in the face who was drunk and disorderly. And she was like, I want this guy to unmask. And he did it in the front of City Hall. And he still fought crime for a while, but the Rain City Superheroes disbanded a while ago. And there have been other copycats out there. So there is actual caped, well, no, he didn't have a cape, but there are costumed crime fighters. There are costumed crime fighters who do exist. They're very small, and the city, begrudgingly kind of are like, we don't want you doing this vigilante stuff, but they do exist. Again, in the common, core of everyday life. Do we even really hear about that? I just happen to be attuned to looking for these kind of stuff, so I had to look for it. But by the way, side note, that guy did make it onto ESPN. They did a whole special about him.
Oh, nice. I've watched a documentary on called the Seattle Superhero Movement, and it was interviewing. They did like a documentary behind the scenes of like several people who were that were willing to reveal their identities.
Right. Now I don't know what crimes there you could have in Seattle. Like the barista did a shitty job, so we got to kick his ass. But
there were several of them. They were able to stop muggings in progress. And stuff.
They did.
And
I
think that can be anyone though. Like if you're just a concerned citizen in the right place at the right time, and don't go into any of these situations if you don't know how to handle yourself in an altercation.
Well, the cops would basically tell you never to do it.
Yeah.
Especially again, I think his suit had some sort of Kevlar elements to it, but even then,
I mean, there's still a hole for his mouth. Like you still get shot there.
Anyways, it's probably best not to be bothered. Just call 911. But more to the point, can I picture with what we just saw, even 10 or 12 years or 15 years down the road, this being in the same universe with Joaquin Phoenix as a much more plagued and sickly Joker, if he were to make it that far, fighting in his prime Batman who would have to have some great level of martial arts abilities, fighting a guy on life support dying from emphysema. I don't know if that's plausible.
I think a realistic timetable would be 12 years. Because Bruce is 8. That puts him at 20.
And we were guessing on the age. We're just kind of.
Well, Bruce is always 8 when this happens.
Okay.
So we can always pinpoint Bruce's age, but this portrayal of the Joker, we can't really pinpoint.
But is he going to be at 20 years old? 5 o'clock shadow, gravelly voice.
No.
Everything in Gotham.
Batman Year One, like when we get that, this is Batman when he's first starting out, and there's lots of great stories in Year One.
The Gotham, TV show is a great example of it. But still, are we going to get the I am the Knight?
Here's my thing though. So one of my favorite online things that's going around right now is, Batman knows all these martial arts, and he knows every form of martial arts on the planet.
Batman knows
that motherfucker Joker has been knocking him upside the head with a crowbar for 80 years.
Yeah, maybe you're not that good at martial arts if you're taking crowbar shots to the head repeatedly. It's not like, and most of the time it's not like the Joker had drugged him. He just
sneaks around a corner and then
whacks him in the head with a crowbar for no reason. It was like, wait a minute. Well, you do know how to counter and anticipate and parry, and the kick makes it hard. Again, just say, hey, Bruce, baby, how do you know my name? Who else can afford this? Maybe you should wear a cape that's kind of not kung fu. I mean, just saying.
Well, the cape blurs his outline. I get the cape. What I don't get is the inability to turn his head.
Well, they did address that. It goes in the last series. It was like
in the Nolan series,
where there was 2 Alfreds basically. There was White Alfred and Black Alfred.
Well, it was Lucius Fox, and Lucius Fox is a canon background. I know you're not a huge DC,
but it was basically Black Alfred.
No, Lucius Fox is an inventor, and he works at
but
and later on in the storyline, he breaks away from Wayne Enterprises, and he founds like Fox Tech or something like that.
So he's Black Alfred, Black Tony Stark.
I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is also capable of being Black Tony Stark.
I'm a dude playing a dude. Yeah.
Tropic Thunder, low key, great movie.
But yeah, I would just want any future Batman movie just to be narrated by Morgan Freeman. Now, I've seen many things in my life. I've seen a man dress up like a Joker and kill late-night TV show hosts. I've seen another man walk around in a Batman costume. I didn't even know what a Batman costume was, but apparently that's a thing now. And now I can say I've seen many things. I've seen many things.
Oh, God. What even is this video at this point?
Bruce Wayne was a tall drink of water. He asked me for a rock hammer. He wanted to pick a hole through a bat cave.
Okay, enough with the Morgan Freeman. We need to end this before it gets completely out of hand. Any final comments you want to make on this movie? Or this weird episode?
I'm going to say this. Whenever I see something that I like, I usually just save it in the brain, and I don't rewatch things. Like, I'll watch American Psycho start to finish over and over and over again. I'll watch Wrath of Khan over and over. This might be one of those movies where I can watch it start to finish over and over and over again, and it's got a fair amount of cringe moments to it, and it's got a lot of heart to it. I like this. I want to watch this again and again. And the way they put it out there, it made you feel like you were watching a movie made in the 70s.
Yeah, no.
That's the other element to this. Everything about it was done behind the scenes, breaking the fourth wall. Just the elements of it where you were watching something that was a classic.
Yeah.
And that's what it feels like. It feels like a classic movie. They just really hit a home run. I can watch this over and over again. There's going to be a late showing matinees. What I mean by that is like those theaters that will show for like $3 before it completely cycles out. I will be hitting that up like every night. There's like there's one such place, down the street from my job where it's like, oh, it's a month later and they're still showing this. I'll watch it. I don't care if it's a big screen, small screen, Dolby Atmos, IMAX, 3D, I don't care. I want to see this again. I want to see this again, and I want to see my friends experience this movie.
Yeah.
That's the impact it had on me. And it's going to be a lasting one.
Yeah, and I definitely, this is possibly one of the best comic book related movies ever made. And I think this is going to leave a deep mark on the history of comic book movies, and the fact that, you know, it can be a great departure. This is, again, very different movie, but this is going to make history in kind of the same way Deadpool did, with being the first rated R superhero movie, and that went and did the Deadpool thing, and it did it amazingly well. And I think this is opening up DC, because DC's always trying to push for these gritty tales, and then they finally get it and they do it right for the first time.
Can they capitalize on it?
And yeah, and it'll be good, interesting to see that. Like, I'm excited to see how Birds of Prey pans out. The trailer for that looked really, really good.
It did.
And also, I love the story of the emancipation of Harley Quinn, where she, you know, breaks it off with the Joker, and she goes and she becomes her own thing. She starts becoming an anti-hero, and there's some amazing stories that are told in that scope.
This is my concern, though, with a lot of these franchises. When they did Star Wars 7, they waited about a year and a half, released Star Wars 8, and then they went, oh, Solo! Whoa, wait, calm down. We don't need it like a week later. Solo, now, watch!
It was like 6 months, and I feel like they hadn't, because there was... they'd set it up, but they squeezed the timetable a little harder.
Yeah, and that's
because it was 7, and then a year later we got Rogue One, and then a year after that we got 8, and then 6 months we got Solo.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I don't want to get too off that track, but what my point is they took the cow and they squeezed it way too hard, and they shoved Star Wars down our throat. So you can end up overexposing it and thinking, now we're gonna crank out these DC movies, man. Now's the time. They tried to make Justice League and it fell flat.
Yeah,
it was the champagne without the bubbles. It's like, yeah, it's okay. It's okay. You know, it's hey, Aquaman's cursing a lot. He doesn't. Who cares? But then the other thing they could do is just let it sit and let it just appreciate, or they can just make something that doesn't follow the momentum or doesn't have the same writing style. Again, like the Star Wars, which is J.J. Abrams, and then you had...
I don't even know what his name was.
And it was awful. My point is, you got to be real careful with this and nurture this. Do not run to the bank and go, all right, let's start cashing out, get some more equipment, man. We got to strike while the iron's hot. The iron is not hot. You made a good film that can stand alone. Let it breathe. Let it appreciate. See what the audience thinks of this. The same thing they do with Star Trek. They just crank them out, and then now it's like, ugh. They're cranking out a whole bunch of TV series based off of the success of Discovery, and even that show is like, for some people. So you got to be careful here, not to just tap into the, dig into the well too many times, because this could go sideways. I mean, just because this one movie was good, it was good within its own little universe. That doesn't mean I'm going to want to see a Guy Gardner film based in this universe next week.
Oh, I'm so happy you brought up Guy Gardner. I love Guy Gardner. He's
I don't want to see
Green Lantern.
I don't want to see Jon Stewart waiting at the bank getting denied a loan, like it's like hey, I don't want to see that next week. Let it breathe. Let's see if there's an organic response. The next Batman's coming out, and what is it going to be about? What universe is it going to be? It's
a year one look. So, referring back to that, that I brought up, there's a lot of great stories to tell in Batman Year One, and we will do discussion about that later on because I want to close this video out.
Yeah, but I just be careful. Be careful. This is amazing. You should watch this multiple times. It's worth it. It's worth it. The story is great, and you're going to love it.
Yeah, no, great story. That's going to be the video. We're going to call it there. Thank you guys for watching. Of course, I need you to do all the normal YouTube stuff, like the video, comment, yell at us. What did we get wrong? What do you disagree with? Discuss the video in the comments. If you guys start actively posting in the comments more, I will respond. I look at these things.
And then what we want you to do is put on a shirt and tie and go door to door, singing the praises of Comics the Gathering.
Yes.
We want your friends and family to know about us.
Forget posting us to Reddit. That would be too easy. I want door to door, sell this like we are the next coming of Christ.
Or you could make it like political canvassing. Hey, do you know that Comics the Gathering has some of the best material out there for Magic the Gathering content and sci-fi? We want you to vote for Jesse and Rob for 2020.
Oh God. I want to run for president, but I'm actually still too young.
No.
He's going to be 35, right?
I can do it.
You can do it, but
I can do it.
Thank you.
Vote Rob and Jesse 2020, and we are going to bring sanity back to Hollywood and sci-fi. That is my promise to you, my fellow Americans. We will make them pay for bad Star Wars and bad Star Trek movies. That is my promise to each and every one of you. And when they make a sci-fi movie, a comic book movie with a glowing green jumpsuit, I will personally make Ryan Reynolds shoot the director in the face. That is my promise to every single one of you, my fellow Americans. And with that, good night.
See you guys next week.